Nintendo revealed in their latest teaser trailer for Breath of the Wild 2 that the Master Sword is broken. This is Link's iconic weapon which he used throughout numerous Legend of Zelda adventures, and it appears damaged and potentially unusable in the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Well, today I'm going to have a look at why the Master Sword is broken, plus have a look at what role the broken Master Sword may play in Breath of the Wild 2. Well, if you're new around here or find this useful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below for all the latest Legend of Zelda content, and turn on notifications by hitting that bell. Well, before we get into the topic today, I would love to hear from you and what you think about the broken Master Sword. How is it broken? How is Link going to fix it? And what role do you think it's going to play in the story to the sequel of Breath of the Wild? Well, back in March 2022, IG Aonuma showed up. Unfortunately, not with an in-depth gameplay trailer. It was a mere apology saying the sequel to Breath of the Wild was going to take a little bit more time, and the release date had been pushed back to spring 2023. Now, with that apology came a snippet of new footage showing Link with the damaged Master Sword. Now, the hilt appears to be intact, but the blade looks damaged, almost like it's been dipped in acid, and half of the blade has melted or dissolved away. This poses a huge problem for Link, given this is the iconic blade that is used many times to defeat Ganon or Ganondorf, and it looks like he may be back. Well, first up today, let's have a look at why the Master Sword is important. In Breath of the Wild, most of the weapons have pretty poor durability, given that we can use them for a short amount of time and then they break. Well, the Master Sword is different. Link gets the Master Sword later on in Breath of the Wild, pulling the famous sword from the pedestal set in the ground when Link has 13 hearts or more. Now, it's one of the most powerful weapons in the game, with a power level of 30 and infinite durability, although it does need to be recharged after about 40 hits. When Link is near enemies corrupted with malice, for example, Guardians or Calamity Ganon, or when you're inside the Divine Beast, the Master Sword increases its damage to 60 and it glows blue. It's not essential to beating Calamity Ganon in Breath of the Wild, but it certainly helps. And we get a brief glimpse of the Master Sword glowing blue in that delayed trailer, where we see a long-haired Link with a corrupted right arm holding the Master Sword towards a yellow orb, and the Master Sword is glowing blue, perhaps trying to regain its power. Well, next up, let's have a look at why the Master Sword is broken. We've seen a damaged Master Sword before, but never in this state. This looks damaged, almost damaged beyond repair, with much of the blade missing. We've faced many powerful enemies in the Legend of Zelda series, and nothing has come close to damaging the Master Sword quite like this. Well, there are a couple of clues in the trailers that we've seen so far related to a powerful being, or perhaps beings that may be responsible for damaging the Master Sword. There's something very powerful is holding down the presumed Ganondorf corpse underground below Hyrule Castle. An arm is holding the corpse in place. Link holds his glowing right arm while screaming out in pain. There's a quick flash throwing a silhouette on the wall. An arm is reaching out to what looks to be a screaming long-haired large character with long fingernails on both hands. Well, the origins of the arm holding Ganondorf's corpse in place aren't yet known. Plus, we don't know who this silhouette on the wall is. So it could be it is the silhouette of a reanimated Ganondorf, given you can just about make out the distinctive features on Ganondorf's face. In this short sequence where we see Ganondorf held down and Link screaming while his arm is glowing, this could be the moment where both Link's arm is modified and the Master Sword is damaged. After this sequence, we see Link's arm change with this new colour, the long nails and the square-like tattoo around his shoulder. It could be the arm holding down Ganondorf somehow fused with Link's own arm. Well, next up, let's have a look at what this potentially means for the story in Breath of the Wild 2. Well, I imagine that we're going to go on a quest where we have to fix the Master Sword, rid it of its corruption, and perhaps use it to face down a rejuvenated Ganondorf. We've seen Link travelling to the Sky Islands and showing the Master Sword to these yellow orbs, so it could be we have to travel across Hyrule, find these sites where each time we visit the yellow orbs, then we present the Master Sword, and each time we do that it's fixed a little bit more until it's ultimately restored to its former glory. So we don't yet know what the yellow orbs are, but some fans have speculated this could be Princess Zelda. We've seen her fall to the depths of Hyrule in the trailers. Well, it looks like Link has not only lost the full power of the Master Sword, but he's also lost the princess as well. These yellow orbs could be Link communicating with Princess Zelda via the Master Sword. So we have seen something similar before in the Legend of Zelda series related to treating swords with energy. So for example in Skyward Sword, and it seems like Breath of the Wild 2 seems to share many similarities with Skyward Sword. So in that game we obtain the Goddess Sword. So the Goddess Hylia creates both the Goddess Sword and Fi, a spirit who ultimately lives inside the Master Sword. The Goddess Hylia gifts the Goddess Sword to Link to help him along in his quest as Hylia's chosen hero. Well, after receiving the Goddess Harp from Princess Zelda, Link has to temper the Goddess Sword using the 3 sacred flames so it can hold the necessary power to open the Gate of Time at the sealed grounds. And each time Link tempers the sword in the sacred flames, the Goddess Sword is powered up, and it's also altered in terms of attributes and appearance. So Farore's flame converts it to the Goddess Longsword, and that increases the attack power. Nehru's flame converts it to the Goddess White Sword, and that allows Link to douse for loot. And then Din's flame finally converts it to the Master Sword, and that is 4 times more powerful than the original Goddess Sword. And the Master Sword doesn't reach its true potential until it's blessed before Zelda enters a deep sleep to keep the seal in place for demise. So there's definitely a precedent in the Legend of Zelda series to power up swords, and given the parallels found between Breath of the Wild and Skyward Sword in design, we may once again call on the Goddess Hylia to help us out on our journey. In the original Breath of the Wild we visit statues to give us hearts and stamina, but perhaps we call on the Goddess Hylia once again to help us repair the Master Sword. Well, let me know in the comments what you think about the broken Master Sword in Breath of the Wild 2. And that is it for this look at why the Master Sword is broken and what role it may play in the sequel. Well, as always, thank you so much for watching or listening, and for more Legend of Zelda content like this, hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to Triforce Times. Or you can follow me on Twitter at Triforce Times. Well, if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out the other videos on the channel. Well, thanks again, and I'll see you soon.